What's going on? It's JohnnyVTV live here on this Wednesday, November 2nd, our first show of the new month. Join with me, my co-host, Nick Durst. How we doing, brother?
Doing well. It's November, the end of the baseball season, and this is where things really get heated up for the football season. We'll see if the Cowboys have their usual November swoon, but by Thanksgiving, we're going to have a really clear picture of the NFL playoffs.
Yeah, I can see that. I think this is a big month because this is really where everything starts to crystallize and take shape. And if you're in the NFL here and you're on the cusp and you're a team that's a borderline team, this is really where you want to start separating yourselves from the middle of the pack and trying to inch towards that postseason line. Maybe this year in the NFC, it's 9 wins potentially, or you're in the AFC, it's a couple tiebreakers. It might be 10 wins in the AFC this year. We don't know, but it's definitely a critical month filled with a lot of excitement. But Nick, before we get into the NFL, there's going to be some World Series Game 4 action. The Houston Astros are actually now the underdog, with the Phillies being the favorite. Aaron Nola versus Christian Javier. Where are you going here?
Well, I'm going to take the bet at minus 265 that Aaron Nola will not record a win tonight. I don't think.
Wait. Did you say 265?
Yes.
You're laying that. That's steep, buddy. That's steep.
Listen, there's no way this guy's going to go more than 5 innings, and that's just the way these pitchers are going now. And I think I will go plus 100 for over 7.5 runs in this game because these teams can't pitch so far for the most part. It's just been a lot of offense, a lot of slugging.
So it's interesting because Christian Javier has a pretty fair fly ball rate. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but he's more of a fly ball pitcher this year. And that's not a good recipe in a hitter's ballpark like Citizens Bank with a lineup like the Phillies that have a lot of poppers in there, especially you make one mistake or the winds go in the direction you need to, and that ball is carrying out there. So, I mean, as much as I think the Astros have to get right here, and I don't want to discount them because every time you think they're going to lose, they're going to win, they end up winning. So I feel like Houston is live here. Aaron Nola doesn't. Something's not right with him, and I've mentioned this plenty of times before. It's usually when he gets to around the third time in the order. Even in the second time, he's historically not good, even though this year he was a little better. But he's historically not good. And the issue I have with him is he has trouble at times not locating his pitches, bad pitch selection, bad pitch sequence. This all matters, especially at this point in the year in the World Series to a team like Houston who has a lot of great hitters in that lineup. This is where you can get yourself into a lot of trouble. And Aaron Nola, I don't think is going more than 5. I agree with you there. I feel like he gives up 3-4 runs. I have my best bet later on, but I could see Houston winning this game. I think it's going to be higher scoring.
They need to win this game. If they don't win this game, they're done. So
they're probably going to have to go against Wheeler tomorrow. And the big thing is, if you're the Astros, you got to get to Nola early because the whole Phillies bullpen is well rested. Sir Anthony Dominguez did not pitch, so he's going to be able to come in relief if needed, along with Alvarado. So if you're Houston, you got to get to Aaron Nola early.
How do you like this parlay for tonight? Brandon Marsh to record a hit at minus 120. Christian Javier over 5.5 strikeouts, minus 102. Bryce Harper to record 2 total bases. $100 bet would win you $832 on FanDuel.
I think that's a sucker's bet. I'm not taking over strikeouts. Christian Javier, man, I wouldn't back this guy. He hasn't pitched enough lately. I think the fact is he's only pitched, I think, twice since October started. Like I said, he's a fly ball pitcher. I think he might give up a lot of tanks tonight, a lot of loud outs. He's not a huge strikeout pitcher. I would probably say no for that one. I think it's going to be a higher scoring affair, and I think Dusty Baker will learn his lesson if Javier gets lit up early and won't keep him in.
Yeah. Javier, he posted a 254 ERA this season, but you love your Phillies lineup. We saw it last night. Lots of power, and it's just going to be questionable on the run prevention side for the Astros, especially in the bullpen right now. Well, we'll see. So Astros have to win this game.
I mean, yeah, I think they do. Just it's hard for Houston to lose 2 in a row. Just like I knew coming into Game 3, it would be Philly to win because they haven't lost 2 in a row in the postseason, and I just felt like they were too good. As a matter of fact, the last time they lost 2 in a row was against the Astros at the against the Astros in the last series of the regular season. So I feel like the same thing is on the line here for Houston. I feel like they find a way. They attack Aaron Nola. He's not the best in terms of locating his pitches. That's why if there's an Astros team total, I think the Stros score at least 5, bare minimum 5 runs. Get to Nola early. He'll probably give up 3 or 4 runs in the first 3 innings. And on the flip side, though, I still think Philly gets theirs. I still think Philly puts up 3 or 4 runs in their own regard. That's why I do like this over here. And I think we need to be mindful of each side of the lineup. They have a lot of home run hitters. They have a lot of power. And I do think that there's room for fly balls to leave this park. It's not a park that's going to hold many balls. It's going to be smooth sailing on the way out. Who ultimately wins the series, Nick?
And I'm still going to go with the Astros, but I'm not as confident as I was going into the series.
I'm pretty sure you could guess who I have winning the World Series.
Yeah, you got both teams. Either way, you win. You cash your bet.
I do have the hedge, but Phillies were my team coming into the year. JohnnyVTV said he's all in on the Phillies to win the World Series. Look what happens, man. They're in it. I was proud of Red October fighting Phils. It was a great call. Everything that I thought would happen, their path to get here ended up happening with the lineup, and just pitching started to gel, down the stretch. They almost blew it, almost didn't get in, but man, I knew they were going to be like the 07 Giants. Once they got into the playoffs, nobody wants to see them. Nobody. Just, it's their destiny, man. I think the Phillies, it's theirs. And we're going to get into one of my favorite bets that you have to play tonight towards the end of the show. So stay tuned. But let's transition here to the NFL from the MLB. Nick, give me your thoughts on Week 8. I know we discussed last week regarding what we wanted to see from the NFL, certain teams and everything like that. Has anything changed in your opinion, or are you still in the same boat? What do you think?
I think the AFC North stinks. There's not one good team there that I could see winning a playoff game. And I think I like your Falcons, Johnny. The first place Falcons here with Marcus Mariota, who is looking pretty good. Maybe they should have traded for Matt Ryan, but Mariota is looking pretty good right now. And the Panthers, they stink. So they're going to be out of it. They're trying to tank. And the Saints, I know you picked them preseason, but I don't see anything from them. So we got to just see if the Buccaneers could turn it around. I don't know if they're going to be able to at this point because Todd Bowles doesn't seem like he knows what he's doing. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes out of that NFC South as the champion, as they'll get the home game in the playoff. But that South winner is probably going to have a worse record than the 7th seed in all likelihood in the wild card.
To that point, I wouldn't rule out Carolina, and it's a terrible loss, man. If he makes an extra point, I understand it was 48 yards, fine, that's difficult. He misses a chip shot field goal in overtime, 33 yards. You can't make that. Do you know the conversation we're having today? If this kid makes that kick, that little kick that I could have probably made, do you know the conversation that we're having today? Carolina is in first place. They have a legitimate shot at NFC South supremacy We're talking, is PJ Walker the next thing for Carolina? Do they need to hold him? We're discussing a lot of different things today that the Falcons get away with one, quite honestly. And I'm not ready to declare Atlanta the NFC South champ. I'm not writing off the Panthers either, because quite honestly, I need the Panthers. I have them in a parlay, like I told you. Atlanta has a tough matchup this week with the Chargers. Even with a lot of injuries, they have a difficult matchup. Then they get Carolina next week. So now if the Panthers win that game, they're split. So now the Panthers would have beat Atlanta at least once. They beat Tampa Bay, and they beat New Orleans already. Tampa Bay's got to go play the Rams this week. They might lose that game. Then they go to Germany to play the Seahawks. Then they have a bye. I think realistically, there's a chance the Bucs are losing at least 4 or 5 more games. If that happens, a couple things happen the other way, there's a realistic look here that somebody else other than Tampa Bay is winning this division. Not ruling out the Saints yet, because they're still tough, and I still think there's a very reasonable path for New Orleans to get there, especially because they have 3 more division games against the rest of against obviously the Panthers, Falcons, and Bucs. So I don't think anybody's dead. I really don't. Carolina, I don't think is going to beat Cincinnati. Most likely not. Wouldn't surprise me, but I don't think so. Then I think they beat
Cincinnati did not look good Monday night. But no Jamar Chase. Big difference.
Yeah. And guess what? Panthers have a similar style of play as the Browns do, with a dominant defense, but a good defense, a serviceable quarterback, and a good ground game, even with Deontay Foreman. So
I gotta ask you, while we're in the South though, because I brought up your Falcons. One of your favorite players, he gets dealt. He's not even able to play this year. Calvin Ridley to the Jaguars. Who won that trade?
I think both sides won. I mean, Ridley, it's not a knock on. What bothered me is last year, and I'll never draft him again. Ridley, he's one of the most talented receivers in football. No question. There's not a doubt in my mind that he is one of the best receivers in football when he plays at his level. But he quit on his team last year. He checked out, and then he used the mental health thing. That's fine. But then week 5, he leaves, or week 6, he leaves the team. Doesn't travel with the team to London and play the Jets. And then it was like, okay, he can come back week 12. Atlanta was still in a playoff race in the thick of things. Come week 13, even week 14, Ridley had all this time to come back, and he didn't. He quit on the team. And then we find out what was going on. He turned into Michael Jordan 2.0, and I knew he would never play for Atlanta ever again. They ended up turning him into a second-round pick. That's still a pretty good deal for a guy you're never going to play again. And if you're the Jags, and the Jags and Falcons have some connections, a lot of former players, coaches, intertwined there. It's a good fit. Get Trevor Lawrence, a future wide receiver 1. You would think Ridley's reinstated for next season. I mean, that remains to be seen, but I think overall, you're giving Trevor Lawrence arguably a top 8 wide receiver when he's on his game. And, Ridley's well rested. I think it's a good fit. I think it's a good fit. I think it was a fair deal for both sides. One thing I wanted to bring up, and I wanted your opinion on, dude, the product just remains not good. Do you think, are you looking for anything in particular for the NFL to step it up? I mean, most of these games were weak. Another bad Thursday night game, another bad Monday night game, another awful Sunday night game. The matchups just aren't there, man. And, even still, the Giants Seahawks, I guess, was solid. The Niners ended up being a blowout. The Cardinals Vikings, I guess, was pretty competitive. But I just think overall on a grand scale, we're missing a ton here from this. What's your thoughts on that?
Maybe they shouldn't have trimmed down the preseason and added an extra regular season game, because now these players, they're not playing in the preseason, and it really takes them like 7 to 10 weeks to get in their mid-season form. Everything's pushed back a little, And, you know, that's just what's going to happen when you expand the season. So I don't think this is going to really change moving forward for seasons to come. I think it's just going to be everyone's going to get off to those sluggish starts. They'll take them about half the season. And then in the back end, that's when you'll see some things change. But right now, we've been saying there's a lot of parity, but just a lot of teams aren't that good, and that's what we're seeing on the field right now. And the Giants Seahawks game was closer than the score indicated. If James doesn't muff the punt twice, the Giants probably win that game, or at the very least, you're going to win your bet.
What's my team? Oh my God, bro. It was brutal. I ended up having one of the best weeks I've had in a long time, by the way. But that Giants thing cost me a decent amount of money, cost me 8 straight teasers on the hit. I was really upset. I was heartbroken.
Yeah, you can't have that guy returning punts again this season.
Nope.
I would probably got to cut him. I don't, they didn't though, but the Giants need to get someone who could return punts and kicks and be a dynamic wide receiver. So they didn't trade for anybody. They have to sign Odell Beckham Jr. if they really think they want to compete, because the Giants, they're not going to get anything out of Galladay. I'd be surprised if he plays again. And Shepard, of course, is out. So the wide receiving is iffy at best. Daniel Jones, he cannot throw the ball downfield. So they need those quick guys who can run the slant and take it to the house. But the Giants were in that game. The score doesn't make it look like they were in it, but they competed there. They probably should have won that game. And if they didn't drop the 2 punts, I think they definitely would have won the game.
Yeah, that one sticking me, to be honest, and I was really just not happy about it. I feel you there. I would like to see some other things, but one thing to point out, man, on a positive note, I'm really just so happy for Geno Smith. I love what I'm seeing. I think Geno Smith, man, he really is. He's the guy. He's the guy, man. Comeback player of the year. That was a big one for me. I still have him. Hope he wins. He gains serious ground on Saquon Barkley. I got to be honest, dude. Not only is Seattle looking like a great bet to win the division now, and I grabbed them last week, I would definitely bet Seattle to win the division. But I'm looking at betting them in the playoffs. I think realistically, and it's a good litmus test for when they play next week in Germany. I don't think they do. I don't think it's outrageous that they can win the NFC. I really don't. Like, if they get a couple good matchups in their favor, they could beat the Giants. I think they could beat the Eagles, to tell you the truth. I really do. I think they could beat the Eagles. The Niners is a tough one in division, but maybe they don't have to play the Niners. I think they could beat Tampa Bay, and I think they will beat Tampa Bay next week. I think they could beat the Vikings. I think they could beat Dallas. They could beat anybody. I think the Niners are probably the toughest test. But ultimately, if they didn't have to play them, I think there's a path for them to win the NFC. And that's still a reasonable price, man. I love what I'm seeing from Seattle. And that brings us to our next segment. Nick, the Seahawks, again, are underdogs to the Arizona Cardinals. This time it's in Arizona. They blew them out 2 weeks ago. Who do you got here?
Well, I think I'll go with the books here. I'll take the Cardinals to win this game. There must be some reason why, because I can't understand why the Cardinals would be favored here. Can you? I mean, they coming off a loss. Their offense looked really good though, so I'll say that they looked really good in that last game against the Vikings. Things seem to be clicking. Defensively, they blew it. So far this season, the Cardinals are underperforming, and I think this is a good bounce back game for them, because despite Vegas here, there's no expectations for them in this game. Everyone's thinking the Seahawks are super hot. But I watched every snap of that Seahawks game. They did not look that good. They were turning the ball over like crazy. Fundamentally, they weren't good. Pete Carroll's getting a flag on him because he's on the field. I mean, you can't make that kind of mistake. Didn't hurt him. So I'll go with the Cardinals here. I think they're going to finally get a win that they've been chasing for a few weeks now. And now you could tell us why the Seahawks will win this game.
I have a question for you. Did you watch the Seahawks Giants game last week?
Yeah, the Seahawks did not look good.
I'd say they look great, but I got to be honest, dude. They didn't look bad. I mean, they played a scrappy New York team, and they still put up 27 points. And regardless of the muff punt or what, I mean, Geno Smith still had a good game. DK Metcalf wasn't even expected to play. He had a good game. I think you're selling Seattle a little bit short here, and they contained Kenneth Walker for the most part, and no receiver really got loose. Tyler Lockett, Metcalf, who wasn't even supposed to play, and he actually was very involved. They both did solid, nothing crazy. 55 and 63 yards, touchdown each. But it just speaks to the level that they can win against a team that's probably going to be in the playoffs where they're not even close to their best. They held the Giants team to 13 points. They put a lid on Saquon Barkley. I mean, the guy keeps getting goal line touchdowns and short scores that boost his numbers and make his day seems better than it is. But in regards to Seattle, and for the fact, aside from that they're just one of my teams that I really love rooting for now, as opposed to years past, Arizona's terrible at home. I mean, Nick, you've heard me say, how many times have I mentioned that there's not a person, there's not a soul in sports betting that knows the Arizona Cardinals better than I do. I know what they're going to do before they do. I know it's going to happen. And aside from the fact that they're bad at home, and they've always been bad at home, I think they're 10-17 straight up under Cliff Kingsbury since 2019. They're not a good team. And yeah, they got D-Hop back. D-Hop versus Tariq Woolen will be a good matchup this week. But the running game is a little suspect. The defense is suspect. Divisional opponents are always tight. But I just don't see what kind of answer Seattle or Arizona's going to have for the Hawks. They have too many places to exploit them. So I don't buy Arizona. I know you're always a big Arizona guy, even going back to last year, but I personally don't see it. I think this is a spot where Arizona loses. Them as 2-point favorites. I could see what you're saying. Maybe there's a lot of feeling that, from the books, let's get everybody on the Hawks. Let's get everybody on Seattle. Let's trick them. Maybe. I mean, it happens sometimes. But if you look at the matchup, there's not much to suggest here that Arizona can exploit a lot of areas on the X's and O's chart. I personally just don't see it.
Well, I think that the Cardinals' offense is looking a lot better as of late. And I think I would take the Cardinals' offense over the Giants. And again, Seahawks, I'll give them all the credit. Their special teams looked great last week. And that was the difference in the game against the Giants.
All right. Agree to disagree, my friend. Agree to disagree. So let's move it on here. The LA Rams, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs are 3-point favorites at home. They've lost 3 in a row. Brady hasn't lost 3 in a row in 20 years, but here we are. The Rams coming off a loss against the Niners. What else was new? In other words, water is wet. Cooper Kupp did not practice today, but it appears he dodged anything serious. And it sounded like he's trending towards playing. I would understand why he doesn't practice today, maybe even tomorrow. Assuming Cooper Kupp goes, do you think Tampa Bay gets off the schneid here?
Yeah, Tampa's going to win this game. The Rams stink. The Rams are not making the playoffs. The Bucs have a lot to play for here. They have the division still at play. And your guy Stafford, maybe he's hurt this year. He doesn't look that good. The defense, not that special. They're missing some good pieces on the offensive line from the Super Bowl run. And the Rams, they're not motivated. They won the Super Bowl. And usually the Super Bowl hangover is for the loser, but they have the hangover here. And they're just, it is what it is for them. We could always throw in the old adage of a West Coast team coming to the East Coast. I don't know if that's really true that often, but long flight nonetheless. And eventually, the Bucs are going to win a game. So I can't see Brady coming into practice this week and not chewing at his teammates and screaming at them, motivating them, and doing extra film study and whatnot. And let's not forget how these two teams ended, the Buccaneers season last year in a game where if Brady had the ball last, maybe we thought they were going to beat the Rams in the playoffs. That was a heck of a game. So that game definitely sticks in the back of Brady's mind still today. That's the reason why he ultimately unretired, because he felt like he had unfinished business. Don't love the way these teams are playing right now, but I think the Bucs here, they'll finally break through and get a win.
Yeah, listen, I think the travel plays a factor here with the Rams when you consider the fact that LA has to travel. I need to see the Cooper Kupp situation, but let's say Kupp plays and he's fine. I think I'd probably lean taking the Rams at +3. Now, albeit I've been on basically the wrong side of every Tampa Bay thing since week 2. I was right about them week 1 against Dallas. Since then, I can't buy one versus them. They are just as great as I've been with the Cardinals and Seahawks this year is as bad as I've been with Tampa Bay. So I'm not really 100% sold on this. I need a little bit more data, a little bit more information on who's playing and who's not. But let me tell you something, man. The Bucs losing Shaq Barrett is gigantic on the edge. They need that guy. They need somebody like that to take advantage of the weaknesses of the LA Rams. Now you're looking at it. Who are we going to count on for the Bucs to make some noise up front? I mean, you got Vita Vea, but there's no more Jason Pierre-Paul there. There's no more Ndamukong Suh. Shaq Barrett was supposed to be your guy. And I think realistically, the Rams at +3 is good. I like the Rams at +3. I might wait to see if there's a 3.5 out there because people are just going to keep betting on Tom Brady. They're going to keep saying things are right or it's going to come back. He's going to get it right. He's going to figure it out. The Bucs are going to make a run. It's not too late. The fact is, they don't look good. And at the end of the day, neither of these teams look good. They're so out of sync. Their rosters are so out of balance. But I would back the better coach in Sean McVay. So I would say right now, assuming Kupp plays, the Rams +3 is my look. I don't have a real true feel just yet on who the money line is, who the winning side is, because Tampa Bay needs this. But so does LA. LA loses this, and let's say Seattle wins this week. They already dropped both games to the Niners. It's panic time for the Rams because I got news for you. I don't think 3 teams are going to the playoffs from the NFC West. Unless the Giants have a dramatic fall off and the Packers don't get it together, I seriously doubt there's 3 teams going from the West. So they're going to have to be competing likely with Seattle, San Francisco, Minnesota, Green Bay, and then the Giants.
You think Green Bay's got a chance to get in at this point?
Right now, no. No. To be honest, I went against my judgment and said I think Green Bay was going to figure it out and be good this year. Have 11 wins, 12 wins, which clearly off. So that's my bad. Just because they have Rodgers, but I guess I didn't account for Rodgers just kind of checking out. He looks like he doesn't want to be there anymore.
So yeah, I would say if a team's going to fall out, because I don't consider the Packers in, obviously you could pick the Niners or the Seattle Seahawks that they might fall out. That's because the Rams get to play them head to head. So that's a possibility. But I would say the Cowboys would have the chance of falling back, which it's tough, but they actually have a more of a challenging schedule ahead than some other teams. They're gonna play the Packers this week. Who knows what's gonna happen there? But usually the Packers kind of have the Cowboys number, but different teams. They got the Vikings then. Well, yeah, next week. They got the bye week this week. They got the Vikings on the 20th. You got the Thanksgiving game, which anything could happen against the Giants. Then they got to play the Colts. Probably going to beat the Colts, I would think. But later in the season, they got to play the Eagles again, and they got to play the Titans. So it's not like a cakewalk to the end of the season for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, but my point is, the whole point is the Rams need to get it going. Now, this is a tough one to win, but if you're LA, you start losing more games, especially with the fact that you don't have the tiebreaker. So their only hope at the moment is to steal the 7th seed. They need to steal the 7th seed. And I got news for you. Like, there's a lot of teams that could be fighting for it should the dominoes fall a certain way. So I would ultimately take LA to cover the 3. And like I said, this is the caveat that Cup plays. But I don't have a side on the money line here. But, Nick, from one LA team to the next, let's go with the Chargers. They're also traveling east to an NFC South opponent. They're playing the Atlanta Falcons. They're now out to 3.5 after opening up as 3-point favorites. Do you think the Chargers, amid all their injuries, are going to come off the bye and smoke Atlanta? Or is Atlanta going to keep that good fortune going from last week?
Well, the Chargers have been nothing but a disappointment this season. I think they're going to come out here and they're going to win the game. I don't think they're necessarily going to blow out the Falcons, though. I would still take them a -3.5, but I think it could be like within a touchdown in this game. And again, this is a must-win for both teams here. That's for sure. But I'll say with the Chargers, they had the extra week to prepare. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt here. Maybe they got healthy. They're definitely the better team between these two teams. So I think they're going to win, but it's just a question of how much could they win by.
One thing I worry, so they're probably going to be without Keenan Allen. They're going to be without Mike Williams. They're playing with the taxi squad, but luckily they still have Austin Eckler. They still have Josh Palmer. They have Gerald Everett. Their run defense is atrocious right now, which was the theme of last year. In Atlanta, what do? They run the ball as well as anybody, any team. They're getting CPAP back this week. All this at 3.5 kind of spell, and you know me, the Chargers are my Super Bowl team this year. This kind of spells Atlanta plus 3.5. And Atlanta's missing most of their secondary, which would be ordinarily a big advantage for the Bolts. But they don't have their guys to take advantage of. I personally don't see it. I mean, off the bye, listen, I think the Chargers probably end up winning the game. I kind of like Atlanta at 3.5. I got to be honest, I'm probably going to be completely off this game. I probably won't play anything unless something just stands out to me later in the week. My initial look is Atlanta plus 3.5. I would probably take Chargers plus 3 or -3. I think the Bolts come away with the W here off the bye week. But man, they can't do anything right, LA. They're a team that also needs to win. Like, they're technically in the playoffs right now, but these are the games, if you're LA, you have to win. You can't start dropping these games. You know, they were given, despite all their injuries, they were given a break in the regards that the middle of their season was very soft and very favorable. So if you start losing these games and giving these away, now when you get to the harder part of your schedule, come late November, mid-November to December, like for instance, they have Atlanta this week. Now the Chargers have won 3 of their last 4 games. They got blown out to Seattle, fine. But they have Atlanta this week. Then they have San Francisco off a bye. Then they have Kansas City. That's a rematch spot in LA. The game they should have won in week 2. Arizona, man, like I think they'll beat Arizona, but that's a tough game. The Raiders is a tough game for them. The Dolphins, the Titans, the Colts, the Rams, the Broncos game, like they don't have a layup schedule. They probably have one of the more difficult schedules remaining. So if you're the Chargers, you have to win this game. You're 4-3, get this W, go to 5-3, and then you got Niners, Chiefs, Cardinals, Raiders. Try and go at least 2-2 there, and then in the last 5 games, pull out 3 wins. I think it's possible. I think ultimately it is the Chargers who win this game, though, outright. So let's get on to the Gambling Guinea's best betting trend. I like Seattle this week, money line. This is my favorite bet of the week. You can get them around plus 110 right now, depending on which book you have. But I think they sweep the Cardinals. And, I'm counting on Geno Smith, a comeback player of the year, to keep it going. Pete Carroll, now I have a stake in him for coach of the year. So these are the ones also, even though it's a divisional opponent, it's difficult that you have to win because the Seahawks are going to have to keep creating distance between themselves and the Niners, who at the moment have the head-to-head win over them, and they play again not until December 15th. So now if you're Seattle, you have Arizona this week. You want to win this game, going for 4 straight wins. Then you have the Bucs in Germany. That game could go either way. International affects a lot of people. Ironically, though, Seattle has a shorter flight to Germany than Tampa does. And I learned this yesterday. Nick, do you know why?
Because they're going to fly over the Pacific Ocean?
Nope. Because they're going to fly over the North Pole, or like how it's a globe, where Tampa's just going to go like that. Seattle is going to go like this. That's what I learned. And like, fly over the North Pole, man, that's a different world. That just seems like I'm on a different planet. That's just so crazy. That's a very interesting traveling fact, though. So that could go either way. Then they have the Raiders. They could beat the Raiders. They have the Rams. That's a division game. They have to win at least one. Carolina could go either way. The Niners, they probably lose. Chiefs, I think they have what it takes to beat the Chiefs. The Jets, then the Rams again. So I think Seattle, man, this is one where you got to win because you need to keep going if you want to create distance between yourself and San Francisco. So one more thing. Let's get to the merge player of the night. I think it's going to be Kyle Schwarber tonight. He's plus 900 on DraftKings for MVP. So I broke this down earlier on Twitter. Bryce Harper was plus 700 before the game last night, moved to plus 170 after a home run. Now, if you look at Schwarber's numbers, he has as many home runs and RBIs as Harper does. Schwarber has a better average, on-base percentage and all of that, and he's playing the field. So what you might ask is, well, yeah, Harper's got the narrative. That's true, but there's too big of a gap on the sports books for Schwarber to be having better numbers and that much behind Harper. There's not much substance there. And what we know is Kyle Schwarber can change the perception like that, one swing of the bat. Say Harper goes 0 for 4 tonight and Schwarber goes 1 for 3 or 2 for 4 with the home run. Now watch how those odds change significantly. So if you're looking at getting involved here, I think this is the best look on the board. There's no way Schwarber should be this deep. I think it's a good opportunity to get in now. If Kyle Schwarber hits a home run and Bryce Harper throws up a dud tonight, I would think he's at least cut in half. So
Who would you have if the Astros win this series? Who do you have as MVP?
I got to be honest, I'm not playing it. I think you're better off. You can't play it. So if we look at the odds real quick, let me pull up FanDuel real quick.
Well, today would be the day to play it because the Astros are down in this series.
Yeah, you have to play it today because if they win, then everything's gonna change. But all right, let's say for instance you want to bet somebody on the Astros, which is incredibly difficult. Didn't even have it up, do they? No.
Well, Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, I mean Tucker had the big one, but on DraftKings you have Tucker as their favorite at plus 950. Framber Valdez is an interesting one. So nobody offensively has stood out except for Tucker, and Tucker had one big game. The guy I would probably look at right now is Framber Valdez at plus 1,200. He's the only pitcher that is eligible, I think, or has any standing to win this award.
He already has a win in this series.
Exactly. He pitched phenomenal. So let's say the Astros win tonight, right? The Astros win tonight. Then they're going to throw Verlander versus Wheeler again tomorrow. And if they win tonight, lose tomorrow, then they're going to throw Valdez with everything on the line. And if Valdez throws up another gem like he did last time, with the lack of offensive output that's going on for this team, I think Valdez then becomes the guy unless like Alvarez or Bregman go nuclear. So I think Valdez is the bet right now for the Astros, in my opinion. Because outside of game one, Tucker really hasn't done a whole lot. But Nick, as we're wrapping up here, what's your final thoughts heading into week 9?
Final thoughts is that the Jets, it's going to come down to a win and you're in week 18 game versus the Dolphins and they're going to get blown out. The Jets are going to get demolished by the Bills this Sunday. You can't give the Jets enough points. I'm going to take the Bills no matter what. Then the next week, they're going to lose to the Patriots when they play them, or after the bye week. So 3 losses in a row. The Jets' magic is going to be dead for them. And my overall final thoughts is I can't wait for next week for the MLB offseason. Lots of big names on the market this offseason that's going to shift the landscape of MLB moving forward here. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited. And the other thing I want to touch on, and I know you probably have some thoughts, is that Manfred said the other day the Oakland A's are probably going to end up in Las Vegas. And to me, that's pretty exciting, but it's also upsetting for all Oakland fans who will have no professional sports teams.
Well, the Warriors kind of, they played the same for him, but yeah, I mean, listen, where are they going to go? Are they going to share a stadium with the Raiders again? I think the Raiders are going to
get their own stadium.
No, I agree. Listen, I don't know if I totally buy that they're going to go to Vegas. I just don't. Maybe they do. I just don't know. Like, what do the A's have to offer? They're not good. You know what I mean? At least the Raiders.
Well, they've been good every year until this year.
I mean, good is a relative term. Like, I liked Oakland, but they shipped all their players away. I mean, I guess it would be cool. Even though it's a dump, I heard, I always kind of wanted to go to the Coliseum. It seems like a cool place to go watch a game. Like, I'm sure people would reply like, "Oh, the Coliseum is a total dump. I hate it here. They need a new stadium." Yeah, that's true, but I'm sure there's some sort of novelty to it.
You like the Trop too, so
what?
You like the Trop?
I do like the Trop. A lot of people don't like it, and I think it's just because it's an unpopular opinion. It's like people hate Joe Buck, and I can't understand why. I think Joe Buck's one of the best in the business, but I do think hating Joe Buck is a popular thing, so everybody just hops on the train. I think the Trop is a solid place to watch a game. I like that it's indoors. I think people just crap all over it for no real reason. But yeah, I think that's an interesting one. I'm excited that next time we see each other, baseball is going to be over. I need to just focus on one thing. It's been a good baseball season for me. It has. And, it's a profitable year. And I think ultimately I will be looking forward to doing my college baseball stuff come the new year. I think college baseball is going to be, I'm telling everybody it's going to be taking off. It's one of my favorite things to do nowadays. But in terms of looking for week 9, Nick, I just want to say be on the lookout for the double digit favorites. I think there's a lot of room for people to think that, they're double digit underdogs. They're going to get blown out. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think I would keep an eye on it. If there's one team that does cover, I do think it's probably the Bills. But I think a team like the Texans can hang with the Eagles. Thursday night, short week. They have to travel. So I'd be on the lookout for that.
I think the Texans could pull it off because it is Thursday. I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles are overlooking them, looking ahead, and it's Thursday, and some fluky way the Texans win.
Yeah, no, I agree. But that'll do it for us. So appreciate everybody following, tuning in here. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm @_JohnnyVTV. He's @Nick_Durst. Any questions, drop them in, and we'll catch up with you guys next week. Everybody, have a good weekend. Cash some bets.